Navigating the risky tidal waves of personal injury cases can be daunting. But what if the right insight could turn those waves into stepping stones? Every PI attorney wants bigger cases, but bigger cases can mean bigger risk and need bigger wallets to see through to the end. If you've ever grappled with the uncertainties of financing your PI cases, this is an episode you won't want to miss. Hello and welcome to another episode of The Lawyer Millionaire. I'm your host, Darren Wirtz, financial planner for law firm owners. Today we delve into the topic that quite literally bridges the worlds of law and finance, personal injury case funding. It's a complex landscape, often walked with caution. To guide us through this terrain, we're joined by a special guest and PI financing guru, Laura Moore, founder of Moore Injury Funding, and she even has her own podcast. Laura, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Darren. It's a pleasure to be here with you today.
Great. I'm so excited you're able to join us. This is a great topic because it's so closely related to what I do in financial planning and the legal world as well. Before we dive in, why don't you just start by introducing yourself to our audience and telling us a little bit about your great company that you started?
Absolutely. So Moore Injury Funding was founded over a year ago. We're based in Georgia, but we serve clients nationwide. So no state is a stranger. Of course, state-specific rules apply, but anybody from your state, my state, or anywhere else can give me a call. Call us, email us, text us. So this field is in really high demand, and of course, competition is fierce, but it's a niche that is very much needed by plaintiffs, by injured people. So what we do is we help out with cash advances. We also call that pre-settlement funding. We help clients with post-settlement funding, medical funding, case funding, and law firm financing. So 5 types of services that we provide. So yes, pretty much that's what we do.
Great stuff. Awesome. Well, Laura, why don't you just give us some of your backstory and tell us about the journey to starting your business. What inspired you to get into this complex world?
Absolutely. Yes. Good question. So, I've been working with attorneys for over 10 years, been in the medical field for over almost a decade, actually. So this is very familiar part of my life, and so I have always had heart for suffering people. And the reason the main pushing factor that pushed me to start my own was not just because I love helping people and I love those suffering individuals. I was myself one of those, victims or injured plaintiffs not too long ago, where I got involved in a car accident. It was my fault. Thankfully, nobody died, but the recovery was very long, still going through it. So just, a lot of physical, emotional, and just very painful situations. So I don't wish that upon anybody. So when somebody calls me, says, Laura, I'm in a really bad financial situation, I've been injured, I do have an attorney, working with an attorney, have been to emergency room, going through all these therapies, I probably will need surgery, or I'm, maybe recently had a surgery, I'm still in a lot of pain, I lost my job, can you help me? And that's what I do. I help out those injured.
Wow, that's incredible. I'm so glad you shared that with us, having that personal experience with the field and having some of that to draw from and wanting to help others. That's really great stuff. Yes. Now, let's talk about law firms. How would you describe, because you fill a very important need in the financial world for law firms, and of course, we talk about financial planning for law firms and law firm owners on this show. In your experience, how would you describe the typical financial struggles that a personal injury firm encounters, and how do you assist with those struggles?
So, a lot of attorneys, when they freshly get out of law school, in the perfect world, they join a bigger firm, and we all know who those firms are, Morgan, Ken Nugent, all the billboards that we see all around different states. So it's a good way for them to gather experience, learn from the best. And then a lot of attorneys eventually start their own. They go on their own, with all the gathered experience, and of course the brave ones, really, because it's not easy. So to start your own firm, you have to have space, you have to have staff, you have to have equipment, software. You have to pay people's salaries. You have to bring cases, and those cases are not cheap. The bigger the case, the more complex the case, the more money attorney has to put in.
Yeah.
But by law, attorneys cannot put in their own money because that's unethical. And that's where I come in and help them out with any case-related expenses, such as life care planners or any other medical experts, anybody related to the case that can bring value to the case, make the case better.
Yeah.
So those would be the case expenses, but law firm financing, like I said, if attorney starts his or her own firm, a couple of years down, ideally the business is going really well, revenue it's developing, results are being seen, really the fruit is ripped, and then you just attorneys at some point decide to open another office or offices, and that's where I would come in as well. I help them out financially to start to expand.
Yeah, some of these cases, especially the big complex ones, can take years to settle, and you have to be prepared to endure that time frame. And if you're just starting out your own practice, you don't necessarily have the bankroll to keep the firm going, like you said, to pay the staff, to do all the things that need to be done just to keep the doors open and keep the lights on.
Exactly. Like you Darren said, an average personal injury case that takes anywhere from 1.5 years up to 2 years. So 2 years is usually the average, but it can go longer than that. Some cases could go, like mass tort cases, could go for 5, 6, 7 or more years. So it's very, very financially draining and very financially, consuming and involved, type of business.
Yeah, and even with a good bankroll, a good emergency fund, you don't have it. No one has a 5 to 6 year emergency fund necessarily. I mean, I usually, for law firms, encourage them to have on the law firm side 3 to 6 months of expenses. Maybe for a PI firm it needs to be more, but 5 to 6 years, you definitely need some help at that point.
and then some cases, just recently got a request for case funding, one specific case, and attorney needs some finances to help her out only for 3 months. So, like I said, on average, it could be 2 years, but it could be as short as a couple months only. Okay. So, of course, in that situation, we adjust our rates and really don't make money on it barely, but we also need to pay our people and keep our lights on. So,
yeah, definitely. So let's talk a little bit more about getting funding for a case. In your experience, when does it make most financial sense for a firm to seek case financing? And then on the flip side, are there situations where it does not make sense or where maybe it should be avoided?
So when you say case, do you mean for the plaintiff or do you mean for their particular case where they need life care planners? So those are two different things. When we talk about cash advances or pre-settlement funding, that money would go to their clients, to the injured people. So my clients are the injured people, the person who got injured in a car wreck or trucking accident or at work, or maybe they were walking on the premises somewhere, apartment complex, slip and fell due to, a hurdle or an object that shouldn't have been there. So injured plaintiffs, attorneys themselves, specifically plaintiffs' attorneys, so it's very specific niche, and medical doctors and medical facilities. So 3 types of, entities or individuals that I work with. But my primarily client per se is plaintiff's attorney. Because if client, injured person calls me or texts me or emails me, first question I always ask, of course, I'm so sorry this happened to you. Tell me a little bit more about your case. And the second question I ask, how bad are your injuries? What happened to you? What type of accident or injury what injuries did you sustain? What type of accident were you involved in? And third question would be, do you have an attorney? And if they say, well, I don't have an attorney, I say, well, I would be more than happy to help you out based on the zip code, based on where you are, because I want to make sure that your attorney is as close to you as possible. But 99.9% of the time, my clients do have an attorney.
Okay, makes sense. So you're providing funding to the plaintiffs themselves. Are you also providing funding for the law firm itself?
For the law firms, yes. So that's again another type of funding. So that's called law firm financing. So law firm financing is specifically, like I said, if it's really for it's a particular situation where an attorney would want to expand at some point, grow, and maybe open an additional office, number 2, maybe number 3, maybe 4 or 5. And so with all of that, marketing money increases. They need to hire additional staff. They may need to get, several computers, laptops. They may need to start going to more conferences and seminars and attend more CLE hours, to educate themselves and to allow their staff to get additional education and to be up to date to, on all the newest knowledge when it comes to law. So that's where I could come in. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, let's say we have a firm that is, or an attorney has this case, right, and doesn't expect it to settle. Would you provide financing to keep the firm running during that process as they're litigating that case and trying to get that case to resolution?
So it really will depend. Of course, my goal is natural instinct is to say yes, but there are certain things that we always look into, and I have a wonderful team. I have partners and underwriters that we work with, and it comes down to load of the cases, how many cases. Then we would look really how many cases attorney has, the history, they're active with the board, have they been penalized, are they still practicing? Because, people make up stories.
Sure.
You would think, this is a field where we should trust everybody. But unfortunately, we have to really do a little extra research there when we talk about large amounts of money. So it like I said, comes down to the load of cases and the complexity of cases and the total value of the cases. So we look at all the big picture, and from there we decide how much or how far we can help out with the ongoing litigation.
Okay, so for the law firm, it's not just about that particular case, but it's more about what else do they have going on? What's their big picture? What other cases are they working on? What's their credit worthiness? Things like that. You're looking at more of that stuff?
Absolutely. Okay. Just like, let's imagine the example would be if you're buying a house, and if let's say if it's a first purchase, first house, your bank will look into, okay, what do you have a job? Do you have a job? How much do you make? How long you've been at this job? Just very basics to see if you are a trustworthy person. That's exactly what we do with attorneys. We want to make sure that they have a good load and really good worthy cases. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes sense. So let's talk a little bit about, if for an individual plaintiff, if you're going to provide funding to them, what makes for a good case that's going to be able to get funding? Are there some particular things that you look for? How do you identify a good case that you can fund?
Okay, so it really comes down to injuries. Of course, it has to be within the statute of limitations. Each state has different statute of limitations. Here in Georgia, it's about 2 years. Florida is, they actually went from 4 years to 2 years. I'm not sure. How about your state, Darren? I think it's 2 years in your state. I want to say it's 2 years, but I could be wrong. Okay. So each state has different statute of limitations, which means client has a right to find an attorney and to claim that he or she has been injured and, expect certain, legal process within those 2 years. I mean, there are some exceptions, but it's more difficult to prove the case. It has to be really within statute of limitations. And what was the second question?
Well, I have more questions about that. Things that you look for that make it a good case that can fund. And so you're mentioning the statute of limitations as one of those markers, and the injuries. Are there other things that you might look for that say, okay, this is a case that's a good candidate?
Okay, so it's a really policy limit. So the defendant's policy limit. So if we are specifically talking about the car wreck, the question I would ask the law firm, would that be attorney, his paralegal, office manager, whoever is responsible for legal funding, a lot of times case manager, is what is the defendant's policy limit? And there could be some layers to it, but usually it's very straightforward. So it could be 25-50, it could be 50-50, 50-100, which means that shows how much money attorney has to work with.
Okay.
And so if somebody has very low policy limit and their injuries are significant, such as maybe traumatic brain injury, TBI, maybe herniated and bulging discs in several parts of the spine. So that could be severe injuries. And if the person has already maybe been to emergency room, the bill is just from top of my head could be $15,000 to $20,000 to $25,000 just from that one quick visit, and then if they had to get some MRIs, X-rays, CT scans, some additional testing, that could easily, be way above the policy limit. So it would be difficult to fund that case, or not at all, actually, because there's just not enough money in the case. Good case is where policy limit is high. Injuries are unfortunately significant, and the person is literally treating, and working with the attorney very closely, listening to what the attorney tells them to do. As attorneys know, how to work these cases. So if your attorney tells you go and see the doctor so and so for this specific injury, you have to do that. And so also another part of services that we provide is medical funding. So I can not only help with the cash advances, while the case is going on, such as, putting food on the table, paying for the gas, maybe getting another car if the injured person lost vehicle during the car crash, really anything just to get by from month to month. And then when it comes to medical funding, of course, you can imagine those bills are very, very high, and, including MRI, surgeries, neurologists, psychologists, and any type of therapist. And we also can help with transportation, meaning to drive person from their home or to their residence to the medical facility and back as many times as needed. And we can also provide translators because we have a lot of foreigner people. So if somebody doesn't speak English, we can assist them with finding the right person where they feel comfortable and get good treatment and good service.
Okay. Yeah, this really serves a critical need for plaintiffs, because if you've been seriously injured, you're probably not working. You have all these expenses in addition to your ordinary living expenses. Is this typically a common thing for attorneys to kind of recommend their clients to explore, or is this kind of a growing field in your view?
It's probably both. I try as much as I can to educate my attorneys that I work with, or my new potential clients. It's really to educate, to explain how helpful and beneficial it is to their clients when I can help them out. Yes, there's a fee, and I explain those fees, and there's a straightforward breakdown of all the fees. And so today I got a question, if my client takes this amount of money versus this amount of money, cases of it's wonderful, very high policy limits. So, it's no issue there. But can you send me a breakdown of all the fees? Let's say if the case settles in 3, 6, 12, 24 months. Absolutely. So it's honesty is the key. It's very important to be honest. And so we take pride at More Injury Funding that we work, directly with our attorneys' clients. So that leaves a lot of extra time for them to do their job, to go to courthouses, to prepare for trials, to actually practice law versus talking on the phone and texting, every few minutes. And that's what I do. So I get most of the information, primary information directly from the client. If I have some additional questions, I always call attorney. And of course, I still always call attorney because, client may say, well, I need this amount of money. When I call the office, they say, oh, no, this person cannot have this much, or they don't need that much. So I do listen to my attorneys as well because they know the case value. So I go from that.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Now, the alternative to using your services might be I assume a lot of people probably do this sometimes, is maybe use credit cards or other sources of borrowing to try to, keep themselves afloat while they're waiting for their settlement. What would be the advantage or the disadvantage, compared if someone was to use your services versus trying to, finance themselves through credit cards or other types of borrowing? What are the advantages that medical funding or you would provide?
Sure. So believe it or not, Darren, there are a lot, and I didn't know that until I started working in this field years ago, is that a lot of American citizens born and raised in this country, maybe from generations to generations, do not have a bank account. They've never been to the actual bank. They don't have a credit history, which means if, that bad accident happens, whatever injuries they sustain, if they went to the bank, no bank would ever, unfortunately, give them any money, not a single dime. So that's where I would come in because I know how this financial situation it could be. I just, we don't check any credits. There's no background or credit check. We go directly from the law firm, what attorneys tell us. So I talk to the client, I listen to my attorney, put the picture together. And then, just based on that, based on my experience, years of experience, and also, of course, I consult that, with my partners, with underwriters, and between all of us, we come up, with a conclusion after reviewing the case. Is it a good case, and how much money we can help out with that particular month or with that particular situation.
Okay.
So it's this, and so another thing is our services are non-recourse. We call it non-recourse funding.
I was just going to ask you about that. Yes. Tell us a little bit about what that means.
Yes. So a lot of times, even attorneys don't understand oftentimes what non-recourse means. So it's very different from a loan. So the loan is when you go to the bank or you go to a friend or mom, dad, family member, cousin, and ask for a loan, which means you have to pay it back. There's no way not to pay it back. Well, with family, it's a little bit different. But if you do go to a bank, and you buy a house, you buy a car, and God forbid, if you lose car in the car accident or, you lose job and you cannot make payments on your mortgage, bank will take that house or that car back, and totally destroy your credit history. So with this is you don't have to go through the bank. I am the bank. So you come to me, we'll review your situation, we'll review your case, we'll look at your injuries, and we will decide, how much we can help you with.
Yeah.
So non-recourse funding is, which means, if attorney ends up going to trial, and in some situations, statistically, it's about only 2.5% of all cases. So it's very, very small fraction, but it does happen. So if attorney loses the case in trial, attorney does not get paid his or her fees, client does not get paid anything, and I don't get my money back. So this It never, knock on wood, never happened to me yet or to us. And that's why, my experience comes in and my underwriters. And so, of course, I have to have very good relationship with my attorneys where I, can really trust and hope that, the cases they send me are strong cases.
Yeah, well, that's really a big advantage, in my opinion, versus more traditional financing routes. Look, I got one more question for you, Laura.
Sure.
I'm wondering if you can share with us any particular stories, success stories, or obviously with protecting the anonymity of whoever was involved. But do you have someone in mind that you made a really big difference in their lives with your services that you could tell us about?
Absolutely. Well, I have quite a few, but let me see if I can think of something very recent. I had a lady from some islands with a beautiful accent. And so the case came in from my friends from this law firm I've been working with for quite a while. And she was really desperate because she just came back from back home and spent quite a bit of money, and she was in a car accident. So her case is going on. She lost job. She's very stressed out. She's financially drained. Her husband is going through some situation financially himself. And then they have 2 little children. So it's just very, very, very difficult, very stressful financial, emotional situation. And she's in a lot of pain too. So she comes back from visiting her old mom. And then as soon as she steps into the United States, she learns that her mom is in really, really bad health situation. And her mom's over 90 years old. And so she says, please help me out. I just really need to pay my bills, and I do need to buy a ticket because, I would never forgive myself, if I never saw my mom again. So I have to go back. So I work with my partners, with my team, tirelessly. It took a day and a half, I believe, but pretty much I just focused on that person, back and forth between the law firm, between my underwriters, between her, texting her every few minutes, making sure everything looks good. And so we got her through it. She was very, very thankful. And it was a good situation. And then later on, she sent me another referral, which was her husband. So... So it's just, if you do a good job, if you're honest, if you really help people, and that's exactly what we do, is it's a good feeling. It feels good to help others and to see those wonderful results, get them treated, get them, see my people getting better. And, maybe eventually bring in their family members to the same attorney or to the same legal funding company like us.
Yeah, it's always great when you can see how your work has a real impact on people's lives. So thank you so much for sharing that with us, Laura.
Of course.
And as we come to the end of our episode here, I want to ask you about your future plans. What does the future look like for you and for your business? And maybe you could share with us what your concept of retirement is.
Okay. Well, beautiful question, complex question.
Yeah.
Several questions in one. Well, the plan is to really get involved with trial organizations, trial attorney organizations in different states, of course, starting with our own in Georgia, which is GTLA, Georgia Trial Lawyers Association. It's a wonderful group of fantastic trial attorneys that I've known for many, many years. And, getting to know some new family members. We call it families, just like wonderful organization, great energy, wonderful vibes. We do a lot of wonderful events. So my goal is to really, starting next year, to get involved with them 100%, hands down. And so, post-corona, they started doing a lot of, 4 main annual events, and in between several happy hours, and then visiting different cities within Georgia and biggest cities. So just trying to keep up, really. And then in addition to Georgia, of course, I would like to go to my neighboring states, Tennessee, Mississippi, Kansas, Florida, Texas, and everywhere else going forward. Retirement? Oh, not thinking about it yet. I still feel very young. But when it comes to retirement, I probably should talk to you there. And so how should I plan my retirement? Tell me, please.
Well, Laura, it's up to you, and it's however you want to design it. And we've heard all kinds of interesting answers to that question. So If you don't know exactly yet, don't worry. You're in a same boat as a lot of other people. But it is really just how you define it. Some people want to retire early and they want to do something different. Other people want to keep working, but to maybe scale back a little bit and enjoy a little bit more of life. So keep thinking about it. And let me know when you've got some ideas.
Okay. I know you're the right person to talk about that. So yes, for many, many, many years, my goal is to keep working because I love what I do. Absolutely. I adore what I do. And then eventually, like you said, of course, maybe I see myself actually in Florida, believe it or not too far from here.
Okay.
But so Florida, maybe some additional remote location somewhere in Europe, since I'm from Europe. So it's always good to be back that way too. But I just love Florida, like Gulf Coast. So at some point, just winding down and just relaxing more. Hopefully I'll have grandchildren by that time and can enjoy my family more.
Fantastic. Well, in closing, Laura, please share with our audience how they can find you and learn more about you and the work you do.
Yes. So you can find me or us at www.moreinjuryfunding.com. More is with 2 O's. We're also on all social media sources, I think all of them, including LinkedIn, TikTok, Pinterest, YouTube. What else? I'm probably missing something. Instagram. Everywhere really. So More Injury Funding on Twitter, I think. It didn't allow us to create more injury funding. So it's called Funding More with 2 O's. And I do have a podcast, like Darren had mentioned. It's called It's Time for More Injury Funding. So try to listen to that too if you get a chance. It's a lot of fun conversations, really very interesting, informative conversations with attorneys, doctors, and anybody in between. So.
Great stuff. Great. Well, thanks so much, Laura. And we'll make sure we get all of that into the show notes for everybody. And with that, we come to the end of another enlightening episode. I hope our conversation reminds you that challenges can become opportunities. And keep tuning in for more episodes packed with actionable advice and thought-provoking discussions. If you haven't yet, go ahead and hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode packed with useful advice. And you can help us empower even more law firm owners like you by sharing our podcasts with your friends and colleagues and leaving us a glowing review. At the Lawyer Millionaire, we partner with ambitious law firm owners, enabling you to find clarity and gain control over your personal finances so that you can create extraordinary wealth and achieve your long-term dreams. Learn more and schedule a time to chat with me at thelawyermillionaire.com. Now, go build your law firm and grow your empire. I'm Darren Wirtz. See you next time.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.